Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to share with you some of the mistakes that I made when I went to Zimbabwe. As some of you probably know by now, I went to Zimbabwe for Christmas. I had a wonderful time despite these mistakes. If you are in the UK, Canada, US, South Africa, and you're planning to go to Zimbabwe sometime soon, you may want to avoid making these mistakes, because had I not made these mistakes, some of the inconveniences that I experienced would not have happened. But as I said, all the same, I managed to get over those hurdles and I had a wonderful time. But I want you to have an even better time than I had. So before I get into it, I just want to thank everyone who has been watching my videos, who's been liking my videos, who's been leaving comments. I appreciate you so much. It helps my channel grow and it keeps me motivated. Now, let's get into it. The first mistake that I made when I went to Zimbabwe was to do with my planning. Now, there are a few things that I got right when it comes to planning. The first thing that I got right when it comes to my planning was I booked my ticket in advance. As you know, December is peak season. And if you're going to go anywhere, if you're going to buy a ticket to fly, to go somewhere, it doesn't matter where you're going, it is always wise to book in advance. And I know it happens sometimes that you can buy tickets at the very last minute and actually get a good deal, a pretty good deal. It does happen, but you don't want to risk that because you don't know that you'll be able to get that deal when the time comes. It doesn't always happen, but it does happen from time to time. So the wise thing to do is to book your ticket well in advance. When you book your ticket well in advance, you have a much better chance of getting the actual dates that you want to go. So I got that one right. Now, the second thing that I got kind of right, I'm saying kind of because I made a few errors as well. Yes, I did some things right, but some things I could have done better. And I'm still talking about planning. That was to do with my trip to Victoria Falls. I knew that I wanted to go to Victoria Falls when I go to Zimbabwe this time. This has always been an ambition of mine to visit Victoria Falls because, as I stated in my other video, I had never been and it was becoming a bit of an embarrassment. So this time I was determined to go there. So I knew I was going to do it. And so what I did was I went on TripAdvisor and I booked some activities. Now, the mistake that I made on that part is when I went on the website to look up the activities, I assumed that if I booked the full day activity, it would exhaust everything that you could actually do in Victoria Falls. That was my assumption. But guys, I made an error. I realized when I went there that actually there is loads of things to do in Victoria Falls, like loads of stuff that you can actually do. So when I got there, I realized I wanted to do the game drive. I wanted to do other things. But because those things were not in my budget, I kind of had to stretch myself. I went outside of my budget. And some of the activities, I came back without actually doing the activities that I could have done. First of all, because I didn't put those in my budget. The second reason was when I booked the hotel, I booked for so many days and there was not enough time for me to do those activities. And again, because it was not in my budget, I couldn't extend my stay. So it was all to do with my planning. And that takes me to my next reason, which is to do with the budgeting. It all comes into your planning. If you're going to Zimbabwe and you know you want to explore our beautiful country, you want to explore all those wonderful places, you need to do your budget, guys, because as I always say, if you want to experience those wonderful things, you have to be prepared to pay. And of course, I have to mention that if you're using your Zimbabwean ID, you get discounts here and there. But if you want to have a wonderful time, if you want to experience all those things, if you want to go to all those places, do your budget properly. And whatever allowance that you give yourself, you need to do it properly. Do your calculations. Don't leave anything to chance like I did, because you don't want to go there and miss out on an opportunity. Because how many times do you get to fly to Zimbabwe if you live in the diaspora? Let's be honest. How many times do you get to go there? Yes, some people can go every year, every 6 months, every 3 months, or every month even. Some people can do that, but that's not everyone. So you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. If the opportunity is there, why not do everything that you can possibly do in one go? So this is the mistake that I made when I went to Victoria Falls, which means I will have to go again at some point. Now, the other thing that I got wrong when it comes to planning was to do with transport. Now, this one turned out to be a major issue for me when I went to Zimbabwe. Now, I have to mention that there's plenty of transport in Zimbabwe. There are plenty of buses, comfortable buses, coaches that you can get to travel from city to city. But mind you, if you're going to visit and you're pressed on time, like I went there for a couple of weeks, and if you want to be able to do all these things, you want to maximize your time. So in my case, I got my planning wrong in that I knew I wanted to fly to Victoria Falls, but I don't know why something didn't click in here. Something didn't tell me to book that ticket in advance from Harare to Victoria Falls. Yes, I had booked my flight to Zimbabwe in advance, but I did not book my ticket to Victoria Falls from Harare in advance. So by the time I started scrambling, trying to find a flight, they had gone up. The prices had skyrocketed. There was no way I could afford it. So I had no option but to catch the bus. However, it was an adventure for me, and I got to actually see what it was like to travel by bus in Zimbabwe nowadays, and I got to appreciate certain things. And of course, it's a long journey. It was tiring. Like, that's why I said in my other video, it was a nightmare, because it's a long journey from Harare to Victoria Falls. It's nearly 900 kilometers. So that's not a joke. It's not a joke. And as I said, if you're pressed for time and you planned all these things to do during your holiday, you want to be able to have that convenience. So if you can fly, then book that ticket to Victoria Falls in advance. So transport is a thing. And if you're going to drive, then you want to plan that in advance. Because remember, as I said, it's a long trip from Harare to Victoria Falls. So you may want to stop somewhere to have a rest. You may want to stop maybe in Bulawayo, sleep overnight to get a rest because you want to be safe on the roads, and then proceed. So all that means planning. You need to do your planning. So this is the bit that I got wrong. But all the same, I managed to go to Victoria Falls. I managed to have a wonderful time, and I got to experience what it was like to travel by bus in Zimbabwe. And I met wonderful people. So it wasn't a complete shambles, but I could have planned it better. Now, the other mistake that I made when I went to Zimbabwe this time was I didn't have enough cash on me. Yes, I had some cash, but it was not nearly enough. As I said in my other video, if you're going to go to Zimbabwe to visit, then it's wise to have some dollars on you, and you want to have smaller denominations. Have $1 denominations and $5 denominations. Have more of that, because it's easier to navigate your way around that way, because you'll find that if you go to certain places and you want to buy something, and if you've got like larger denominations, they may say we don't have change. And some people may try to take advantage of you. They may say, oh, I don't have change, when actually they're trying to get you to buy more items. Because if you really want something, if you've got like $5, for instance, and you really want something, and if someone says, I don't have change, then sometimes you may say, okay, keep the change. So it's always wise to carry more of those smaller denominations. So I didn't have enough of that on me. At some point, I had to go online and send myself some money via Western Union to collect the dollars in Zimbabwe, because I couldn't use my card in Zimbabwe because of charges. And I understand there are certain cards or certain apps that will make it possible for you to buy in Zimbabwe without incurring any charges. I tried one app, and I won't say what that app is because I don't want to give a negative review. It could be that I just didn't use it properly, I don't know, but I found it a nightmare. It didn't really serve me very well. So in the end, I ditched it altogether. I had actually registered on that app and I had gotten a card to use that app, but I discovered that actually I'll still get charged. So to me, it didn't make much of a difference. So that's why I had to send money to myself in the end. So that's one thing you want to take note of. And if there's some way that you can have a local card in Zimbabwe, then you're better off doing that because of those charges. Those charges are painful. So that's that when it comes to money. Now, the last mistake that I made when I went to Zimbabwe, now this one is a major one. I've left it till last because I'm going to make a video about this at some point. And that mistake was to allow negative things to fill my mind. And I'm talking about things such as, oh, things are hard in Zimbabwe, this is going wrong, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're always going on about that. But what we fail to understand is that despite all of that, despite our challenges as Zimbabweans, our country has a lot to offer. God bestowed gifts upon our country. He gave us those wonderful places, monuments in our country. Do we go on about those things? Why don't we amplify those things? And I'm going to stop here because, as I said, I'm going to make a whole video about this because I feel that this is important. So this is the mistake that I made. I allowed negative things only to fill my mind. So even before I went, I was expecting the worst, only to be pleasantly surprised when I got there. First of all, I loved our new airport. It's beautiful. It's like state of the art. That's the first thing that I was actually pleasantly surprised by. And I told you about the transport. Plenty of buses, plenty of luxurious coaches, affordable coaches. That's another thing. And the third thing is just the atmosphere, the experience. Even when I went to Victoria Falls, the hospitality and the accommodation, the hotels, state of the art, comfortable. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And the people I met in the streets, on the bus, wonderful people, positive people. People are happy despite all the challenges. Zimbabwean people are gracious people. They are friendly people. They are cheerful people wherever I went. And if you watch my Chinoi video, I didn't really edit that video too much. I did that on purpose because I wanted you to see and to hear and to experience what I was experiencing in terms of the general atmosphere, how happy people were, how cheerful people were. The people were having a good time. So this is the kind of atmosphere that you will find in Zimbabwe. So the mistake I made there, as I said, I allowed negative things to fill my mind. And that's not the approach we should be taking. We should be amplifying the good things. Because if we want things to change, real change, starts with you and me. It starts with the words that come out of your mouth. It starts with your actions. It starts with your attitude. So really, this is a mistake. It's a major mistake that I made. So this is what I had for you in this video. As always, I hope you found it useful. If you want more content like this and haven't subscribed, then consider subscribing. Also, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment and share. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.